Well, hello again. Looks like we're on to our learning teaching interaction number 2. So for this last couple of weeks reading, chapter 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then some of the teaching the gospel handbook for the CES teachers and leaders. These are some of the things that stood out to me that I felt were important. I like these readings because it relates to the workshop that me and my wife are doing. I think it gives great tips to how to be an effective teacher, and some ideas that I think I can use, me and my wife can use in our presentation with our workshop. I also liked it because it brought back memories of my mission and ideas or things that I've learned from my mission and things that can be important, that can be used for missionaries in a sense. So chapter 4 talked about designing effective instruction, and it talked about 4 key points or contents. It was expository, inquisitory, generality, and instance. And so this talked about these 4 types of contents or ideas or theories are important to help you, I guess, when you're designing and trying to create a lesson or something that you're trying to portray to somebody. And so expository was how you present or show the presentation. Inquisitory was begin with a question or ask questions. Generality is a rule, definition, principle, or procedure. And instance is a specific example of an event, process, or principle. When you're trying to present instructions or lessons, or in our case a workshop, you can use one or any of these, or kind of combine them to how you want to present your lesson. And so these are kind of a way to design, I guess you would call a workshop or a lesson. So let's see, in chapter 5, I really like this because it was about engaging an audience. And so if you're thinking about teaching someone or lessons that you're giving, it gave some important tips to how to engage an audience. And one of the things that I liked in there, it said a formula for engaging an audience. It talked about 3 things: relevance, respect, and participation. And it talked about as you have those 3 things within your lessons, you can, in a sense, you'll be able to get more of an engaging audience. The next thing was to drawing the best out of your participants. It gave 3 some practical tips, and 3 of them that stood out to me. It said participants know far more about their own lives, challenges, and resources than the educator does. Any solutions imposed by the educator without conviction and commitment of the participant will not be effective. And the third one was some of the most important answers in any training will come from the participants. So I like this because it showed that the importance of engaging an audience and to learn within these types of settings, it doesn't always necessarily come just from the educator or the teacher themselves, but it comes from the participants. So an effective teacher or an effective educator will be one that tries to get the participants involved in answering the questions and being able to give advice and bounce ideas off of each other. And we'll get into that into the next one. And when it talks about some other aspects about group activities. In chapter 6, it talked about teaching skills and tools in family life education. So this right here, it says in group discussions, it says begin discussions with words like evidence, explain, interpret, compare, analyze, evaluate, who, what, where, how, and why. Important group discussion skills. It gives a couple of skills: structuring, linking, summarizing, and answering questions. So these are skills that are important for us when we are trying to teach people as family life educators, or who in whatever setting as a teacher. These are important skills to have. So structuring I thought was really important because it said make sure there's a clear purpose and goal to the discussion and keep the discussion within boundaries. It says continually be aware of what is happening and judge whether it is appropriate to a group's purpose. Be ready to redirect discussion when participants wander too far astray. This reminded me of my mission. And you're in your mission and you're teaching a lesson and someone kind of takes a tangent and goes off in a different direction, and it's not kind of the point that you're trying to get to. And so having a structure in your lesson is critical, and keeping to that structure, hoping to get your participants involved, but that they don't go too far astray from the points that you're trying to make. The next thing that was important was linking. Link common elements in groups, questions, and comments. Listen to themes that are similar to other participants to show their similar feelings and beliefs. Linking promotes interaction between participants. So linking ideas, linking questions, linking comments that other people have, other participants have, showing that they have similar beliefs will allow for participants to be more interactive and have a better group discussion. The next thing that was an important skill was summarizing. So summarizing is good for the purpose of repetition and promotes learning. Emphasize the most important ideas dealt with in the session, and summarizing also reveals points that participants may have missed previously. The next one is answering questions. A good point of reference in answering questions is to give our best advice and then turn the question back open to the group to provide answers from the groups. Similar to what was learned in chapter 5, the participants are what give the best advice or best answers to some questions. And so sometimes you just want to give your best advice and your best knowledge, whether experiences, but turn it back to the audience and have them and have the other participants give their feedback on what they found, what they've learned in their personal experiences, and then they can bounce ideas off of each other. So those are some important skills to use within a lesson. The next one is chapter 7, working with diverse audiences. I like this part because you won't always be working with the same culture or I guess set of people, and so you want to focus on the individual communication standards, action orientation, time orientation, work ethic, and family structure. I thought this was one of the most important ones, as family structures, because you want to be aware that other cultures put value on different family circumstances because of experience and culture. Not everyone is going to be similar in your type of culture, and so you want to be aware of other people's cultures and be sensitive to those. And so within the teaching, the Gospel Handbook for CES teachers and leaders, there's a couple of principles that I found that I thought were interesting. One of the things that stood out to me on page 17 said each person has a responsibility for his or her own own gospel learning and living, and each will ultimately be judged by how they fulfill that responsibility. And then the other one was have a so what mentality when it comes to teaching. So whenever you're trying to make points or bring up something important, have a so what mentality, meaning that the audience or the participants are going to be like, so what does that have to do with me, or what does that relate? Why is that important to them? And then you can answer those questions as if they will have that, your participants will have that mentality, so you can answer questions maybe that might arise, kind of preparing yourself to answer those types of questions. And then the next thing was develop a scripture mastery type of mindset. Be aware of and sensitive to gender-specific language within scriptures. You want to summarize scriptures, and then you want to liken the scriptures to yourself. So those are more towards the gospel end of teaching to I guess a LDS group of people or within the scriptures. But those are some of the things that I found that were interesting and important from these this last week's few weeks of reading. Thanks.